Would you remain standing as we hear these words from the first chapter of the Gospel of John? The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus, son of Joseph, from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." When Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, he said to him, "Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael asked him, "Where did you get to know me?" Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you." Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered, "Do you believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Very truly I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Our gracious sovereign and our God, assist me to proclaim, to spread to all the world abroad the honors and glories of thy name. Amen. Does anybody have a friend-in-law? The name came around because we were trying to figure out if Laura's brother-in-law was actually my brother-in-law too, or what relation we were, and we just came up with we were friend-in-laws, right? Does anybody have a friend-in-law? My friend-in-law decided to kind of tell me a little bit of a joke. He was sitting in a church service like this early in the year, good, faithful United Methodist that he is, and he was there and he heard the preacher talking, and the preacher said that United Methodist only invites someone to church on average once every 10 years. Whoa. So he said he had all figured it out. He was going to invite 10 people that week, and that way he's done. Right? I mean, kind of a crazy thought, and to me, when I think about it, although I love my friend-in-law, and I even like the pastor that told him that, it seems the wrong way to go about things. It seems that at the beginning of the year, we're all trying to get people to do something or start out on some new adventure. We make a resolution of, here's what we're going to try, and here's what we're going to do, and by February, we already need counseling on how we didn't make it to that new life goal. John doesn't start out with a gimmick or a statement or something to do per se. He starts out with an idea that I think is really fundamentally essential to what it means to be the people of God. And that is that somehow, if you and I encounter Jesus, we cannot help but go to the whole world and say, "Come and see." That somehow when we meet the Lord, when we actually meet the God who created the heavens and the earth, when the one who promises that to those who are left, who are found faithful, that somehow they might become children of God, that if we meet that person, if we look them in the eyes, if we know them in our hearts, that somehow it's infectious. We can't help but talk about it. We can't help but share with the whole world. Come and see. The book begins with a proclamation about who Jesus is, that this Jesus is the God, the one whom all is created and sustained. It then gives us by verse 5 a promise here in chapter 1 of John, that indeed any of us can become children of God. And now it's shown us how John the Baptist bore witness to Jesus, and some disciples, two of them in particular it draws attention to, went and kind of sought Jesus out. And it makes sense. I mean, this is kind of how the life of faith works. We hear about the Lord, we hear about Jesus, and there are some of us who go and we try to seek Jesus out. But of those people who sought Jesus looking for a teacher, seeking a rabbi, Andrew and specifically, when Andrew meets Jesus and is so excited, and Jesus asks him, what is he looking for? And he says, a rabbi, just a part of who Jesus is. Jesus still says, come and see. Come and see. There's so much more. He runs off and gets Simon and brings him back because, did we mention? If you meet Jesus, you try to get others to come meet Jesus. And that's why when this new day begins on this kind of third day of the telling of the story in John, I'm kind of confused because it shifts and something really unusual happens. Jesus goes and finds Philip. I mean, all the other people should have known to come to Jesus. I mean, Jesus is the one who created the heavens and the earth. But now Jesus goes and finds. I mean, think about this. Has anybody ever applied for a job? Right? How many? I'm looking at my kids here thinking about applying to universities and things. Right? Anybody ever applied for school? So what would be the best school out there, right? What, if we're going to, America, maybe Harvard, right? Oxford. Oh, some of y'all like Stanford on the West Coast. Okay, well, don't leave them out, right? God's University, no, right, of Texas, right? No, whatever your favorite university, or imagine, or imagine your dream job. Like, they come find you. Jesus, born into human history, went throughout the world and somehow chose a bunch of Galilean fishermen to do the most amazing work the world would ever know through. There's not anybody in this room who aren't more capable than some of these fisher dudes. I wonder what God could do with you. Because you see, even now, there are some of us who God seeks out. But to the one that God sought out, that Jesus went to, that Philip, what did Philip do? He runs and finds Nathanael. It says, Nathanael, we found the one. This is him. This is Jesus of Nazareth, the long-awaited Messiah. And of course, y'all heard it, right? Nathanael went, woohoo! Let's go! Right? No, what did he say? Can anything good, I heard it, can anything good come out of Nazareth? It would be like somebody today saying, can anything good come out of Hooks, Texas? Anybody been to Hooks? There are good things that come out of Hooks, right? Maybe down here a little bit closer, like Dime Box. Anybody been to Dime Box? All right, you're from Louisiana. Indian Bayou, Louisiana. Anybody been there? All right, my family's from that area, right? Anything good come out of that place? Right? It's somebody who's been there up to Nazareth, up the hill, and there on the top is a village of a few hundred people. What good can they do or know that would help me, a fisherman, on the edge of the Sea of Galilee? Don't you know that anything good is going to come out of Jerusalem, or maybe Herod's new city, Caesarea Maritima, or even influenced by Rome? How can something good come out of there? But have you ever had a friend you just couldn't say no to? There's a powerful blessing in friendship. And when a friend tells another friend in their time of need, I know what can help. Come and see. It makes all the difference. And so sure enough, Nathaniel, old Nate, comes with Phil, and they go there to the presence of Jesus, and seeing him approaching, Jesus said, here's a person without guile or without dishonesty. Basically, it's the Hebrew version or the Aramaic version of saying, there's a guy who tells it like it is, right? And he's kind of lost. He's like, do you know me? Have we met? And he says this strange line, I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you to come. And it's kind of an odd saying. Well, there's one way of reading it that would say that, yes, Jesus created the heavens and the earth, right, as fully God, fully divine, fully human too, but there's no reason why Jesus can't somehow see something that's happening at a distance. But I wonder if he had kind of this in mind out of Micah chapter 4, one of God's long-awaited promise that the faithful who waited knew and read that has a promise about a fig tree, and that maybe him being under the fig tree was a testimony to his faithfulness. Because you see, there are other kind of people out there too. Some who go looking for God, and some who God comes and finds. There's also other people who have been looking for God so long and for so much that they've almost given up and become cynical about what God might yet do. And here in chapter 4, verse 1, it reads 1 through 7. In days to come, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be raised up above the hills. Peoples shall stream to it, and many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the houses of the God of Jacob, that he may teach each of us his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth instruction, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between many peoples, and shall arbitrate between strong nations far away. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. But they shall all sit under their own vines and under their own fig trees, and no one shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken. For all the peoples walk each in the name of its God, but we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. In that day, says the Lord, I will assemble the lame and gather those who have been driven away, and those whom I have afflicted. The lame I will make the remnant, and those who were cast off a strong nation. And the Lord will reign over them in Mount Zion now and forever. More. You see, Nathaniel was waiting and had been found. Come and see, said the Lord. I am those things and so much more. Come and see. My friends, as we seek to encounter God, the blessing made known in Jesus is so phenomenal that if you say somehow, oh, I've met Jesus, but you've never spoken about it, I'm just sorry, I'm going to begin to doubt the veracity of your testimony. because Jesus is the epicenter of the world for those who believe. The seismic shaking of cosmic reality in such a way that nothing can ever be the same again. And whatever time God shows up and shows out in your life, at whatever moment it hits, it's better than any happy new year. It's more explosive and combustible than anything imaginable. For God is actively redeeming the world through Jesus the Christ unto this day. And our holy task as the people of God is to be so transformed by the experience of meeting Jesus that we cannot help but share the love, grace, justice, and righteousness of God with the world. But don't take my word for it. Take John Wesley's. Did y'all hear the prayer y'all just prayed? The Wesley Covenant prayer? I know some of y'all might be familiar with that, others not so much. I heard y'all say some things that were really interesting, right? Put me to doing, put me to suffering, let me be laid aside by you. Like, did y'all mean that? Like, Pastor Brad kind of took it serious when y'all said that, right? But it's a covenant prayer that John Wesley, who founded the Methodist movement, wrote to be used sometime between Christmas Eve and the New Year at what was called a watch night service, where people would stay up all night, and it's part of a long prayer that goes on for about an hour, and we let y'all recite with us the best part, okay? But it's where we find out that indeed we have a covenant friend. But at one other part, I thought it would be good for us just to be reminded of in the new year, what are some things we can do if we don't feel that we've met Jesus or know Jesus in a way that's life transforming. And it says this: first, set apart some time more than once to be spent alone before the Lord, in seeking earnestly God's special assistance and gracious acceptance of you, in carefully thinking through all the conditions of the covenant, in searching your hearts whether you have already freely given your life to Christ. Consider what your sins are. Consider the laws of Christ, how holy, strict, and spiritual they are, and whether you, after having carefully considered them, are willing to choose them all. Be sure you are clear in these matters. See that you do not lie to God. I mean, have you ever been in a relationship with somebody? Anybody have children? A spouse? Brother, sister? You know, you can kind of give a relationship leftovers for a while, but eventually it takes intentional time, meaningful interaction, dedication. Our relationship with God is no different. It requires that we give our all. I invite you to join me waking up tomorrow. I hope all of you wake up tomorrow better, right? But when you wake up tomorrow, what's your first thought about? Is it about God? Is it about Jesus? I hope it will be. But if not, it's okay. We have grace. Wake up the next day. Try again. Wesley was insistent that Methodists focus on whether their first thought and last thought every day were about God's grace and how it made a difference in their lives. It says, second, be serious and in a spirit of holy awe and reverence. And friends, I think that's as simple as the more you spend time with God, the more time you realize that there is a God and that God is not us. The awe and reverence will overflow your heart because of what God can do in our lives, because of love. Third, we claim God's covenant, rely upon God's promise of giving grace and strength so you can keep your promise. Remember, trust not in your own strength and power. Fourth, resolve to be faithful. You have given to the Lord your hearts. You have opened your mouths to the Lord, and you have dedicated yourself to God. With God's power, never go back. Okay? These admonishments were given by John Wesley to try to help us be formed in our spiritual tasks. And they're amazing. And they help us overcome what I'm going to call the wet possum phenomenon. The wet possum phenomenon. Is anybody familiar? Y'all have heard of that before? Do you think I made that up just for the sermon? Probably the choir knows, right? The wet possum phenomenon. You know, how many of y'all know what a possum is? Right? Somebody triggered it, and I thought I needed a little story on the end of this that would work. And there's a possum headed out that way, and so we're trying to track it down eventually, okay? Don't worry, no possums were killed in the making of this sermon, but it's just, we're just trying to take good care to make sure we're being good stewards of the property God's given us. But there in Texarkana at the parsonage there, one day we were about this time of year trying to get our Christmas stuff down, and we had a tree that was there, and Laura was coming home, and we're moving stuff around and boxing stuff up and putting things, and our little dog, Buddy, starts going crazy. Well, we were very blessed there to have a lovely backyard that looked on this little, well, it was kind of like we called it a lake, but it was a glorified drainage ditch, and it was kind of a nice little area back there we could kind of see. And sure enough, Buddy was barking at a possum, and the possum was doing, what do you think? Playing possum. He was acting like he was dead and all that. And we weren't really sure. There seemed to be a little bit of blood, a little bit of spittle in the mouth. It was all going through the whole motions. Y'all have heard this, right? And so we were there, and we were really worried about what was going on with the possum, and we're trying to get stuff on. And basically, Laura's deal was, well, if you'll take care of the possum, I'll get the Christmas stuff, right? So I'm going to figure this out, and I get a shovel, and I look at it. And I look at the possum, and I know they play possum, and I don't want to get bit or anything. And then I look at that glorified drainage ditch, and I'm like, I got a way to test this out, right? So what do you think I did? I scooped up the possum in my shovel, and I walked for the water a little bit. Of course, by now, Buddy had been moved inside, right? Not to add. And I just kind of flicked him into the shallow end of the water. Friends, I don't know if you have ever been glared at by a wet possum, but it is a sight you'll never forget. The first time you spend any time with God and really get real with your own things you need to let go of and deal with, y'all can come glare at me. It's happened before. The possum glared at me a lot worse. But unlike that possum who found new life and remembered it wanted to live, I am certain that your faith life will reinvigorate, and you'll be motivated in ways you never imagined to go share the love of Christ with others by doing things that make a difference in their lives. Because my friends, if you really want to meet Jesus, get serious with your soul and find a way to share the love of God through what you do and what you say with others. And when you do, I am convinced and persuaded that person you serve, that soul you touch, that life you make a difference in, when you look into their eyes, you will have met Jesus Christ our Lord. But if I'm wrong about going and seeing, about coming and seeing and experiencing God in that way, come tell me about it. But I've got a feeling that the love of God you see in those eyes will transform your life and make a better world, more closely conformed to the hope we have to dwell under a fig tree. Because, you know, I thought when Jesus was talking about the fig tree, he was looking back and explaining something. But when I read Micah, maybe he's looking forward to joy that is yet to be made known. Come and see. Amen.